What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about more trade rumors related to the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's a little bit of a snippet from the 32 Thoughts segment on Hockey Night in Canada last night that would implicate all the things we've been thinking is probably going to be happening in Leafland. The trade possibilities that we believe is the case is probably going to happen. So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for the support on the last couple videos, but I noticed that there's a lot of people watching this right now that aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing and commenting down below helps a lot, and it's completely free, so please do that. I'd really appreciate it. I put a lot of work into these videos. But yeah, I definitely want to talk about the 32 Thoughts segment, because basically Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick were specifically Elliot Friedman, we're talking about the fact that the Leafs are in on a defenseman. The Leafs are looking for defensemen, and they're working hard in that market right now because obviously they've landed their forward depth that they're looking for. Obviously, there's still potential for another trade at the forward position if they would like. It seems a little bit unlikely, but what we did learn and what we spoke about in the last video is that the Maple Leafs were looking for 3 players, and they were all forwards in the trade with the Blues. They wanted Barbashev included in that deal as well. Obviously, that didn't happen, and it just shows that the Leafs were willing to, add more depth to their team. Barbashev would have been a really good pickup. Who knows? Maybe it's still a possibility. I'm not thinking so unless there's more money going out the other way. But I just want to start off by showing cap friendly. So Jordy Ben, like I predicted in the last video, ended up on waivers, right? I said that the Leafs were more than likely going to be putting Ben on waivers. It happened. It's 1 year, $750,000 deal. He's probably going to get claimed because he's actually a pretty decent depth defenseman, but it basically just shows that the Leafs are more than likely going to be looking at a guy with a little bit more of the top 4 look, probably a little bit more point production. They're just looking for a significant upgrade over Ben as a depth defenseman, or even a guy that could potentially knock down guys in our roster to become a top 4 defenseman in the Leafs lineup. So the Leafs are looking for somebody to complement this blue line here, and we'll get to that in a second. But roughly with Joey Anderson, Joseph Woll, and Jordy Ben all in the minors, the Leafs should have around $2 million in cap space. And if they were to deal a guy like Kerfoot or Hall, that's obviously added on to that. But again, with retention and everything like that, the Leafs could afford a player in the $4 to $5 million range, depending on if they get a third team involved or whatever they want to do. But the Leafs could potentially be available to land a significant AAV, a significant amount of cap if they really wanted to. Now, in terms of their assets, I know a lot of people are mentioning their picks. Yes, this is kind of depleted, and one of their deals were just completed, about a 3rd round pick going the other way. I believe, I can't remember what trade it was. It was like the Foligno deal or something like that. I can't remember what trade it was, but the Leafs officially lost a 3rd round pick. But they do have a first in 2024. They'd have that 3rd round pick for this year still, because I believe they lost the one in 2025. So they have these picks, but what people seem to be ignoring is their non-roster, prospects, stuff like that. They do have a lot of really, really good prospects in their system. They have Nyes, who they're probably not going to be dealing, Bobby McMahon, Voigt. They have Steves, Aberzazi, Ronnie Hervonen, Hervonen. I always mess up his name. Topi Niemela, Kalkinen, they have Shalgren and Wall for their goalie prospects, etc. They have a lot of different pieces that they can use for trades, and some guys that aren't even signed here that aren't on an ELC or anything like that. Excuse me. So they actually do still have assets, and they do have players on the roster that have a lot of positive trade value. Nothing that's going to get you anything crazy, but in a trade is not necessarily just a cap dump. It's still a player that could be useful for other teams. So the Leafs are going to have to do something on that blue line. I really do. But again, we'll get to it at the end of the video. But I want to ask you guys, who's going to come out of the lineup? Who's the guy that ends up getting knocked completely out of the lineup? Because Connor Timmins has played really well, and even he's not playing that much. So we'll have to see. But one of the big names that everybody keeps talking about is Jake McCabe. Now, I would definitely not be against this. His cap hit is $4 million. He's a guy that I believe, he's got a couple more years on his contract as well. So this is where it gets interesting, whether or not there can be retention by the Blackhawks if they want to pay that much going forward. That's why a team could be included. A third team could be included here. I'm not necessarily worried about his points because the guy is not here to generate a ton of offense, but being a +7 with 20 points in Chicago as a defenseman is actually pretty solid. And if you look at AR Hockey Stats, Andy and Rono, they basically described Jake McCabe as a solid top 4 defenseman. Now, I know a lot of people don't like looking at these charts. I'm not fully on board with, believing everything that's on these charts, but I'm not even worried about the offense. I'm worried about the transition and the defense. And his numbers are really good, and the eye test matches what this shows. Jake McCabe is a pretty solid top 4 defenseman and probably an elite bottom pairing guy. There's no shot if you trade for this guy that he's going to end up staying on your bottom pairing. He's more than likely going to solidify that top 4 if you trade for him. His defensive impact, denials, roll difficulty, and penalty kill, like roll difficulty, the type of players he's playing against. These numbers are really solid. He's playing against pretty good players. He's been good on a very, very bad Chicago Blackhawks team. He's 28 years old. That contract is pretty solid. So this would probably be one of the better options that the Leafs could grab out there. Maybe Lafferty could be a part of the deal. But again, that would require money going the other way. Is Kerfoot or Hall involved in one of these deals? I'm not too sure. I don't think Keefe wants to lose Hall because that's one of his, best penalty killers back there on the blue line, as much as people don't like him. That's up to Sheldon Keefe. He's an NHL head coach and I'm a YouTuber. So, I don't want to discuss all that because we're just talking about guys that could come in. McCabe is probably one of the better options. But knowing Dubas, he'll think outside the box, and there's probably somebody else that he's interested in. Now, the other guy, we talked about him a ton, is Luke Schenn. Now, Luke Schenn's different. This is the definition of a depth defenseman. $850K. Again, I'm not too worried about his points, but he is putting up decent numbers, 21 and 55, much like McCabe. But this is where things get a little interesting, because if you look at the way he plays, and this is another chart here, at Gunnerstall posted this one, but it's from Jay Fresh. It's a Jay Fresh card. His numbers aren't very good. Now, the reason why this looks like this is partly the team that he plays for, but also because his role isn't necessarily to be a, defensive defenseman or an offensive defenseman. This guy is just a bulldozer. He throws a lot of hits. He scares people away from the puck. He's got the most hits in the NHL with 258 hits. And the reason why this guy is interesting is because if you don't feel like you want to push any of the guys you have right now out of the lineup, Luke Schenn could be a guy that just comes in. If he plays well enough physically and he, shows other teams that, hey, listen, you can't come into this corner because I'm just going to lay you out. Maybe the Leafs want that. Maybe they want that for an entire series. I don't know. He's got something that a lot of players don't have. And that's just the absolute, not even looking for the puck most of the time. He's just going for crashing into bodies. Like, that's literally what he does. And it would be a cool, oh, wow, Luke Schenn's back after so many years, blah, blah. But I'm not looking for nostalgia. I'm looking for a Stanley Cup. So if you're looking for a guy that's just going to crank people and is pretty cheap, Luke Schenn's the guy. If you're looking for a solid top 4 defenseman, it's probably Jake McCabe. And again, these are just a couple options because I want you guys to leave your suggestions down below. That's part of the interactive part of this video. But again, I'm going to come back here, and we've talked about it briefly in this video. Who comes out of the lineup here? And I know people are instantly going for Justin Hall, but like I said, he kills penalties. If he's just playing strictly a defensive role, Justin Hall kind of has to be on this team, as crazy as that sounds. But if you get a Jake McCabe, I'm wondering if Hall could potentially go the other way. He does have the modified no trade clause, and I'm probably sure he's not going to want to go to Chicago. So this is where things can get really interesting. Liljegren at times has been the best defenseman on this team this year. Rasmus Sandin has been really good at points. He's also been pretty bad at some points, but he's still learning. Connor Timmins has been really good offensively. He's just looked pretty solid since coming to Toronto. You're not taking Gio out, you're not taking Brody out, and you're not taking Riley out. So to be honest with you, Timmins being already out of the lineup and Hall being the next guy that I think is up, this is going to be a really interesting deadline. If the Leafs truly want to upgrade on the blue line and Jake McCabe is the guy, somebody's going to have to go. Somebody's going to have to be out of this lineup or a part of that trade. So we'll have to see. It'll make it easier on the Leafs if they are going for a multiplayer trade. If they are getting a Lafferty plus a McCabe, then yeah, players are going to have to go the other way. Money's going to have to go the other way. And then the Leafs potentially could maybe acquire somebody else. Maybe you also get Luke Schenn after that. We can look into all that. Maybe I'll make another video seeing if that's the a possibility. But I'm recording this video at like 10 in the morning. By 11 o'clock, this might be trash. I mean, like some stuff is happening every second. So if you guys are new here, like I said, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. Again, there's a ton of you guys that are watching this video right now that aren't subscribed, and you guys are consistently watching the videos. I see all the analytics. I see all the data. It's like 75% not subscribed. So please do me a favor and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Liking and commenting too really helps. If you don't want to subscribe, just leave your thoughts. I'm fighting against that YouTube algorithm every day. So I love you guys. Go Leafs go. Leave your comments down below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.